Evening. Welcome along if you have just joined me. It is Yasmin Khan here with you on BBC Three Counties Radio on a Sunday evening, taking you through to 8 p.m. How are you? I hope you are very well. I must share with you, I'm somewhat full. Don't normally do a big Sunday lunch, but I'm content, shall we say. Very content. I hope you've had a gorgeous Sunday. Tonight, well, first things first, producer Phil has made me a cup of tea for the first time. We'll be talking about that for sure. Might be some element of judging. This evening, I'm going to be talking to a woman who has experienced loss at a young age and has written about it in a new book about grief. So we'll be talking about grieving. Also this evening, I'm going to be talking to the playwright Ishi Din, who is a taxi driver turned playwright, and quite a tale he's got to tell. We'll be hearing about his new play, which is set in a minicab office. And also, we have a quite beautiful story tonight on our props, where we big up a local Asian person for a good deed that they have done. So all of that to come tonight with me.
This is Yasmin Khan
on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Is it fair to judge someone for their tea-making skills? I mean, we've gone past those days at the BBC, haven't we, when the producer was just for making the tea? And to be fair to him, I did tell producer Phil that he should just never make me tea because I was scarred from other people's tea-making skills or lack thereof, shall we say. But I'm going to go with a solid 6. A 6 out of 10. Is that all right? It's not bad.
तेरा शुरू I don't know baby है किसका कसूर आजा तू आजा मेरी बाहों में सिर चढ़ गया बेबी तेरा फतूर से
It's 8 minutes past 6 on Sunday evening. Now, I don't know if you are a fan of the comedian Rob Delaney, but I think he's brilliant, and I love the series Catastrophe that he stars in and co-writes. And I've been listening to him this week, or over the last few months really, but I caught him this week talking about the loss of his son, Henry, and speaking so eloquently about it and so openly about it. And if you're a regular listener to this show, you know that I talk about grief. I've talked about my grief. And I also personally think we need to get better at talking about grief and be more open about it. And losing a loved one, obviously, is always difficult, especially, I think, if you're a child. Well, Sonia Ahmed from Luton was 11 years old when her mum passed away, leaving her in the care of her grandmother. Well, 6 years later, her grandmother also passed away. Sonia is now 19 years old and is writing a book about dealing with grief, about her family life and about Pakistani culture. And she joins me in the studio now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, it's great to have you here, because I know it's not an easy subject to talk about, and you've had a lot to deal with in your young life. But take me back to when you were young. You didn't know how ill your mum was, did you? You didn't realise at first.
I actually did not know that she was that ill since that night when she started to basically cry and scream, and I was the first one who ran to her room and said, "What happened, Mom?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm gonna die. I can see my soul." And then my dad came running upstairs, and he called the ambulance, and they took her. And then a few days later, my dad finds out that she had cancer, and they had to she was going on to stage 4.
So they didn't know?
No, they didn't know.
Had your mum been a bit unwell at home? Had there been any signs?
Yeah, she did have swelling on her neck, but the GP did not take that much interest in her, saying, "Oh, it's just a little swelling, it'll go away." Gave her some cream and medicine as well. Later on, she started to just feel really bad and really ill, and from that night my dad called the ambulance. They took her and they kept her in L&D hospital for a month or so, I think, but she was on stage 3 going into stage 4, and she was moved to UCL hospital. And then the UCL hospital said they couldn't hardly do anything because the lymphoma cancer was quite severe. And so then she was there getting treated, and later it was around December time when I was coming back from college. My dad was saying that he never told us from the beginning that she had cancer. He just said, "Oh, she's very ill."
And how old were you at this point?
I was 11.
11.
Yeah.
And so how much do you remember of it? Well, clearly it sounds like you remember quite a lot, but how much do you remember how you felt at the time?
I felt really, obviously really upset, because it's actually the time for, it's that time of the period where a mother should be with her child and telling her about everything, like
being a mum.
Yeah.
And so how soon after that did your mum pass away?
So she was admitted in the hospital around October time, and then around December she passed away.
That's very fast for anyone, for any of the family to take in, let alone for a young girl. What impact did it have on you?
It actually it had a really bad impact on me, because as I was the oldest, and I didn't understand what I was doing, and I didn't actually take a lot of interest in education as well, and my dad didn't. I think a lot of Asian parents think, "Oh, as you're the oldest child, you'll cope with it," but they tend to, I think, I won't say, I don't know, neglect you or something, or they'll just leave you.
Too busy with their own grief.
Yeah, their own grief, yeah. And it was really hard, because my grandmother, she's the one who raised us. She's my dad's mum.
Your dad's mum,
and
so
she was
around.
Paralysed from her legs. She was wheelchaired, but she's the one who actually raised us and helped us with a lot of stuff.
But before you even got to that, obviously you had this situation to deal with, and I don't know how much chance you got the time to grieve? And by that I mean, because I know obviously coming from a Pakistani background, funerals happen very quickly, don't they, after someone's passed away? Was that the case with your mum?
No, with my mum, we didn't bury her here because my dad decided to take her to Pakistan because she had her family there.
But that can also be very difficult for the family left behind here.
During that time when she passed away in December, it was really bad snow that time, and so what happened, we only when they done their funeral and everything, and they brought the body home to see the face, and then my dad decided to send the body to Pakistan. The body actually reached there 3 days later due to the snow, and then our flights got cancelled, and her burial happened before we even got there.
So you didn't even
get to see her funeral properly as well, how they buried her and everything.
So when you got back into the throes of, quote unquote normal life, when you went back to school, did you feel able to talk about it? Did you want to talk about it?
I actually didn't want to talk about anything because it was quite upsetting, and also I tried to miss school as well. I made a lot of different excuses to just miss school because of that reason, but I think a lot of teachers did not understand why I was missing school. They thought I was just missing it because
I didn't know about your mum.
And I did feel really ill. I was puking up and everything, and I actually didn't know what feelings I had. My feelings were all over the place.
Did you talk to anyone?
No.
A friend, a cousin, a sister, sibling, nothing?
No, because I was the oldest and I never had any sisters or anything, older sister or aunt to talk to, so I never hardly spoke to anyone.
What about a best friend?
No, never.
You just felt like you couldn't talk to anyone?
No.
That must have been so difficult, and you were so isolated.
Yeah, because the thing is, also every family has a problem, right? We never spoke to my mom's side of the family when she got buried and everything. We never spoke to them, and also
because of other issues.
And we never spoke to our dad's side of the family. So when my mom was alive, I think, as they say, a woman can build a house and break a house if she wants to. She's the
Your
one
mum
who
was the centre of the household.
Yeah, she's the one who was the centre of the household, and a lot of relatives tend to used to come really often. But since she passed away, everyone started to just break their own ways to not to contribute or help us.
So you were left with sort of your immediate family, and your grandmother stepped in to look after you. And how was that?
It was really difficult because my grandmother, we had nurses come in 5 times, 6 times a day to look after her. And also when we used to come back from school, we used to take her in the kitchen on her wheelchair, put on the wheelchair, take her, and she used to tell us how to cook and stuff. So she helped us in that sense. And then we used to take her to the ironing room. She used to tell us how to iron and everything. She literally taught us everything while she was even on a wheelchair and bedlised as well.
But it sounds so she needed carers.
Yeah.
And she was doing her best for you, by the sounds of it, the absolute best she could do while she was unwell and in a wheelchair herself.
Yeah.
And in the meanwhile, I'm guessing life was very difficult for your dad as well, because as you said, he didn't have many people to talk to about all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
But you must have, again, I'm marvelling at the fact that when did people find out at school that you'd lost your mum?
I think around January, February time, March time they found out. Because my dad went and told them, because I think the teachers sent a fine because why I was missing so many schools, and then my dad just told them the reason and stuff. But I think they did try to get a lady to talk to me, but I didn't feel like talking to her basically. So that's why I just left it. So then when I got to year 10, one of my friends, she was just talking to me in general about writing books and stuff, and then it just came to my mind, why don't I just, instead of talking to someone, why don't I just write a book?
Put it on paper.
Yeah, on paper.
Well, Sonia, we're going to come back and talk some more, because you've talked about your grandmother, but then sadly you lost her as well.
Yeah.
We will come back and talk some more in a minute. If you're listening, it's Sunday evening. It's Yasmeen here with you. It's BBC Three Counties Radio. We'll be back very shortly.
I, Danny Dyer, 30 times great-grandson of William the Conqueror, has got the hump with an Anglo-Saxon watermelon. Get hold of that.
On BBC One.
I'm setting off on an amazing history lesson.
He was a bit of a celebrity in his day for being a knight, and he was obviously a bit trappy.
To experience my regal relatives.
Let's have a rave, Tudor style. Let's have it!
And I'm going to be eating, dressing and getting up to all the stuff they did.
You look wicked, Dad.
Danny Dyer's Right Royal Family.
What are you laughing at? This is a serious history programme.
Starts Wednesday night at 9 on BBC One.
This is Yasmeen Khan.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sunday evening, 6:20, and I'm talking to Sonia Ahmed, who lost her mum at when Sonia was 11 years old, leaving her in the care of her grandmother, who herself was disabled. Sonia felt like she didn't have anyone to talk to. And then sadly, your grandmother did her best, but 6 years later, you lost her as well.
Yeah. During my mother's time also, my grandmother's youngest son, basically my uncle, ended up going to prison because of doing VAT fraud, and it was really hectic for my grandma at that time as well, because she lost a daughter-in-law who was like her daughter, and lost her son to being sent to prison for 4 years.
So she had all of that going on.
All of that going on as well, yeah. And then then later, as the time just went past, and she just helped us and taught us everything what we needed to do, and how to cook and clean, and how to behave when people come, and how to serve them tea and coffee and everything.
And you must have felt that responsibility, because she's there teaching you everything, but you're the eldest, and you have 3 brothers
and 1 sister.
And 1 sister. So you did you feel a lot on your shoulders?
I wouldn't say a lot on my shoulders. I think my brothers and sisters, they done their little parts as well also. So we all had our own little chores to do as well, and we all had a lot on our shoulders as well, all 5 of us. So yeah.
So what happened with your grandmother?
My grandmother, I'm not. The thing is, when so she
got sick as well, didn't she?
Yeah, she got sick. She got. I remember I came back from college that day. Got my results and stuff. Came back, and my dad bought cake as well, because I passed my A levels, and my grandma, for some reason, passed 3-4 days before that, she was feeling really ill, and she had chest pains and stuff, and then my dad decided to call the ambulance. So he called the ambulance, and they took her, and my grandma was saying she wanted me to come along with her. So I went along with her in the ambulance to the hospital, and she was sitting there, and she couldn't speak English as much, but she was sitting there trying to explain to the paramedics, this is my granddaughter, I used to look after her when she was little, her mum passed away, this, and she was going on talking about how she raised us. And the paramedic goes, I'm really sorry to hear about your mother. And she goes, now you're going to look after your grandmother. I said, yeah. So we took her to the hospital, and I wasn't sure what the doctor was saying. He was saying, it's 50-50 chance, because she had water on her lungs and stuff, and she had other problems like diabetes and arthritis or something, something wrong with her bones. They're so quite weak.
Lots of complications.
Yeah, and then she, one day I went and to see her early in the morning, and she kept on saying, "Oh, I can see your mother's soul taking me," and she kept on saying that, and I just ignored her. I was saying, why is she talking like this? And I said to her, "Listen, she's passed away, how can you see her soul and stuff?" And she goes, no, I can see her soul, she came to take me. And I just ignored that situation. And then after a couple of hours, she spoke to her brother. Then after that, the nurses came to change her bed, and so they tried to put her on the chair, but because her weight was quite big and the chair was quite small, so they tried to put her on the chair, but she fell off the hoist and the chair. She was half on the hoist, half on the chair, and her foot got slipped and she fell. And I told the nurses, "What are you doing? We told you to get a bigger chair." And they just ignored me because they said, "Oh, you're only a teenager, you don't know what you're talking about." And then they tried to pick her up, put her on the bed. Then they tried to lie her down. I said to them, "Don't lie her down because she has lungs in her water. If it goes through her neck or throat or anything,
all of this must have been really difficult.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an understatement. Traumatic for you to watch.
Yeah, it was really. It was really hard, and I was actually crying at that moment as well. I was telling them, "Don't do that. I know what I'm doing because she looked after us, and we look after her as well, and we know what's right and wrong for her." And I told them, "Don't lie them." And she's like, "This, can you please step out?" She made me step out, but she kept on lying my grandma down, and then my grandma started to have an asthma attack, and then I realised when they put me in a corner, then I realised why the nurses and doctors were running towards her room. And then they, when I walked in, I'm like, "This is what happened." And they're trying to do, put oxygen and trying to wake her up, but she couldn't wake up. Then I was saying to them, "What are you doing? Go away." And so I tried to pick her up. I picked her up, and she did speak once or twice to me. She goes, she goes, "Oh, pick me up." So I made her sit down, and then the nurses again said to her, lie her down." And the nurses and doctors tried to put her down, and then they put an oxygen mask on her. And then from there, she just like passed away, and it was really, really hard and upsetting. And I do remember I did throw a chair across the room with the doctors. I said, "What are you doing?" Because I know what I'm doing. So
you've gone through a lot at a young age to lose two people so close to you, and as you said, you decided to write about your grief as a way of getting it out there. Having said yourself as a young child you found it really difficult to talk about, where are you at with that journey now? Would you say to other people that you should talk about grief and that it's better to share?
Yeah, I personally think that everyone should come out and just speak whatever they have in them, because loss is an unnatural, out of order thing, and a thing which can't be fixed. And so I personally think that if you have anything in you, you should just go speak to someone,
be able to talk about it,
and just let it out, or take some time out, go on holiday and fresh your mind.
Give yourself the space.
Yeah, exactly.
Sonia, where are you at with writing your book? Is it finished?
It's not finished yet. I just recently started a bit of it, so I'm in the middle of still writing.
Well, it's inspiring to see somebody who's still so young talking so openly about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for coming in, and I appreciate you being so open and about your experience. Sonia, thank you. You take
Thank
care.
you so much.
Thank you. Sonia Ahmed there, 19 years old now, who lost her mum at the age of 11 and her grandmother sadly 6 years later. And it's something sadly that comes to us all and we all experience. And I'm a big one for agreeing with Sonia that the more you can talk about it, the better it is. And if you look up that Rob Delaney interview, he's done a couple this week, he does talk so openly and eloquently about the loss of his son. It's really worth watching. It's Yasmin here with you, BBC Three Counties Radio. It is 28 minutes past 6. Sean's got the latest travel now.
Travel for beds, hearts and bucks. BBC Three Counties Radio. Evening. The M25 clockwise is looking very slow following an earlier breakdown. There was a lorry which is having its tyre changed. It's from junction 23 at South Mims down to 24 for Potters Bar. All lanes, though, have reopened, but still seeing those delays. The M40 London bound, usual congestion just before junction 4 for the High Wycombe Hanley Cross roundabout, taking around 5 to 10 minutes to get through that section. The M1 in both directions, you'll find speed restrictions in narrow lanes as part of the smart motorway upgrade work between junction 14 for Milton Keynes and 15 for Northampton. And at Willen Lake, the A509 Portway is closed